Hi, my name is Alex Dolphin and welcome back to another episode of Ex Ante. Today we're going to discuss jury nullification and we're going to discuss that legal concept through the case State v. Ragland. This case was heard in the Supreme Court of New Jersey in the year of 1986. Let's jump into the facts of the case, then we'll talk a little bit about jury nullification. So, State v. Ragland, the defendant he had been a convicted felon in the past, and in this case he was being prosecuted for armed robbery. When the judge was giving his instructions to the jury, he said that if you find that the defendant had a weapon on him while he was committing the robbery, then you must find him guilty of armed robbery. Must is the key word there. So the defendant's counsel argues that this jury instruction was not constitutionally valid because it restrained the right of the jury to nullify the law. So what is jury nullification? Jury nullification is this idea that a jury has a final veto on a law because essentially a jury can choose to not enforce any law that they feel is unjust, feel like is not applicable to the situation. So in this example, jury nullification might look like this. So let's say the prosecutor had really proved with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that Ragland had committed an armed robbery. Let's say that we have videotape of him walking into the 7-Eleven with a gun. We see him pointing the gun at the cashier. It's like pretty evident, right, that he was the one that did this. So the jury, though, still has the power to say, even if I see that film, if I feel compassion for Ragland, or if I just want to, show some mercy, or I feel like the law is unjust in this situation, then we can just vote to not convict Ragland. And then, with the Fifth Amendment's double jeopardy clause, he won't be tried again. He's basically off the hook. So this jury nullification is the idea that the jury has a final veto over the law because they can choose not to enforce it, even if a prosecutor has given the jury enough evidence to prove it. And this is like a hotly contested topic. Some people think that it is an essential facet of a jury trial that was contemplated by the founders. While others think that, this really leads to too much gray area and doesn't provide surety in the law. So in this case, the defendant's counsel, Ragland's counsel, argues that the word must in the jury instruction was basically directing the jury that they didn't have the power to nullify the law when they truly did have the power to nullify the law. And so he argues that violates the right to a trial. The court ultimately says that no, it doesn't violate the right, and you don't have to let the jury know that they have the power to nullify the law. The jury does have this power to nullify the law, but the court in this decision says that it's best to not let the jury know about that power that they have to nullify the law, because essentially they feel that they should treat the prosecutors more fairly. The prosecutors, if they prove with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, they should be able to convict people. Then the juries really shouldn't have that discretion upon themselves. And then the court talks about how the law is created by legislators, and legislators are elected through a democratic process. And if you want to change the law, that's really the way to change the law, and not through a jury nullification. So ultimately, the court does hold for the state here and does not alter that jury instruction, says that it was valid. So that's the case. Jury nullification as a whole, let's just discuss a few pros and a few cons. So one pro of jury nullification is that it does provide mercy. The law is rigid, it's written in black letter, and maybe it doesn't apply justly in all situations. Well, jury nullification gives the power to juries, 12 reasonable people from the community to say, well, the law doesn't apply justly here. Let's let this defendant off the hook. In addition, it also prevents government oppression in a way, right? Because these jurors have the power to nullify the law if they feel that it's unjust. And so it gives more a freedom, I guess, if the defendant has committed a crime, but that law is seemingly unjust to the jurors, they can go ahead and nullify it. Some points against jury nullification would be that, like the court said in its document, elected officials make the law. And if you want to change the law, you should change it through the legislative process and not through, 12 jurors that basically were just names drawn out of a hat. These people weren't elected. So the court seems to discount the opinions of the jurors compared to that of the legislators because the jurors aren't democratically elected, whereas legislators are democratically elected. Further, they argue that another argument against jury nullification is that everyone should be treated equally under the law. It shouldn't matter, if say we have 12 white jurors and one white guy is being prosecuted for maybe a racial crime, and then if you had 12 people that were white supremacists, or even just a few that were white supremacists on the jury, they could vote to not convict this person, and the law isn't equally applied. So the court talks about how the jury's nullification power could actually prevent wrongdoers from being on the hook. And then just to finally illustrate jury nullification and maybe an argument for it, I'd like to just posit a hypothetical. So let's say, and I think a lot of people recognize this, there's a lot of money in politics. And if there's money in politics, then those special interests that fund the legislators oftentimes, get their language into the law, get the things that they want into the law. So let's say that a legislature writes a law that's vastly unjust. Say that a massive company has funded them with millions of dollars, and they write this law that's completely unjust. Wouldn't a jury's nullification power be nice in the application of that law, right? Because where these legislators are persuaded by special interests, persuaded by funds coming their way from large companies, if we had this jury nullification power, it essentially is another check on corrupt politicians, corrupt bills that have been passed through Congress because of large sums of money that have been donated into politics. So you could run that example either way. You could think of a liberal scenario, you could think of a conservative scenario when a law might be completely unjust because it was written by legislators that were funded by lobbyists, and then allowing the jury to nullify that law, would still be another check on that power, another check on the power of money in politics. So thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you'd like to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day.